The following is a recording from Professor Shelton's Art and Lecture Series hosting the Mayor of San Jose, Chuck Reed. Among other things Mayor Reed will discuss is his pension reform initiative to be brought before the voters in June, the financial impact of the A's on San Jose should they relocate to our city. This March 15, 2012 presentation is brought to you from Radio KJCC, 104.1 FM, Real Campus Radio, and your campus media club.
Before I answer that question, I don't get this opportunity very often to tell a Ides of March joke. On campus, somebody, there's a few literary types here, Julius Caesar. So I've been known to be brief in my comments. I think the 2-minute speech is the best. And so I learned that lesson from the fact that one of the most famous speeches in the world is the Gettysburg Address that President Lincoln gave in less than 2 minutes. And there are people today who are still reciting it, and many of you probably know about it. So Lincoln is a tremendous historical figure, 2-minute speech. Compare that to Julius Caesar, who was known to speak for hours on the floor of the Senate, and his friends stabbed him to death. So, from that I take it, short is good.
So my question is, San Jose's retirement costs have grown faster than its resources. Because of that, the city cut staffing, about 1,200 jobs in the last 2 years to cover the shortfall. But not actually solving the problem and simply laying off workers, often the last hired, and particularly young workers. Are we not contributing to a future economic problem by further harming the lost generation?
Yes, to be brief, but probably needs more of an explanation than that. So let me make an intergenerational apology to most of the people in this room. Because my generation has run up a bill in the city of San Jose alone that is $3.5 billion of liabilities for retirement costs that you are going to have to pay. And I think that's wrong, and I'm sorry that we have done this to your generation. But over the last 30 or 40 years, we have been underfunding the pension plans. The city has 2 plans, one for police and fire and one for everybody else. And we today have an unfunded liability of $3.5 billion. And that's what we should have in the bank in order to meet the promises that we've made to all the people that are currently in the system. It's retirees and people that are still working. $3.5 billion. Well, that sounds like a lot of money, but when you divide through by 1 million people in San Jose, it's only $3,500 per person. So when you leave, I want a check from everybody here for your share, $3,500. We'll solve this problem one person at a time. So it's a huge problem that's been created by this system that makes promises to people and then funds it partially, but doesn't really put enough money away to pay for the benefit. And so what we're trying to do in San Jose, what I'm trying to do, is to make it possible for us to pay all the benefits that people have earned, but to reduce the cost of the benefits going forward so that we can pay off that $3.5 billion of unfunded liability, and so that the next generation and the next generation don't just have that roll forward on them. So far, we've not been all that successful. We have learned that if you cut pay and cut people, you can bring down retirement costs. That's not really a solution to the problem. Shrinking the workforce does not solve the problem. It is just a way to manage the problem. We have cut 2,000 people out of our workforce in the last 10 years. We went from 7,500 employees to 5,400 employees. 2,000 people out of the workforce. And that's because, well, the money we had to put into retirement costs 10 years ago was $73 million. This year it's $245 million and going up. The next year, we hope it's going to be flat for 1 year, and then it's going to start going up again for another dozen years. Those are the numbers that are given to the city by the independent retirement boards. They hire actuaries, they do the calculations, they give the city the bill, and we have to pay it. We collectively have to pay it. Taxpayers have to pay it. But we haven't been paying enough, even though that's a lot, $245 million. It is not enough to cover the real, true cost of the benefit. And so every year we're growing that unfunded liability to pass on to you and your children. And I think that's wrong. So we have to get control over the costs. You don't get control over the costs by looking at actuarial assumptions and projections. The benefits cost whatever they cost because people have earned them and they have to be paid. So we have to be bringing the costs down, and we're proposing in San Jose to do that by slowing down future accrual rates, stretching out the retirement age. We have great benefits, very good benefits by anybody's measure. People have earned those benefits, but we can't afford to continue to pay for those very generous benefits, so we have to bring down the cost. That's what we're trying to do in San Jose. And usually when I have this conversation with people in the younger age groups, they get it. But city employees also get it, because they understand that if we run out of money, they're not going to get paid. And there are cities in the country that have run out of money, and they've had to go back to the retirees, like Central Falls, Rhode Island, and say, we're out of money, we're going to cut your pension payments in half. I don't want to do that. I don't want another mayor to do that. I want us to be able, for all of our employees, to understand and rely on the fact that they're going to get paid what they've earned. But we have to slow down that rate of accrual and stretch out the retirement age in order to do that. So that's what we're trying to do. I'm sorry we're passing this problem on to you. I've got 3 years left. I'm going to solve the problem before I get out of office so the next mayor and the next council doesn't have to deal with it. And your generation is protected from things getting a lot worse.
Thank you. To focus on your State of the City address, please explain San Jose's ballot measure proposal. And you touched upon why it's needed, but explain exactly what it is. What will we be voting for?
The ballot measure that will be on the June ballot has about a half a dozen provisions in a variety of sections. So the first and most important one, probably, at least in the short run in terms of the savings, is to require our employees to pay more, a larger share of the cost of their retirement benefits. Today our employees pay, this is in the charter, so one of the things that sets the minimum benefits for our employees is our charter. So we're changing the charter with the ballot measure. So our employees pay 27% of the normal cost, which is the cost today that we think should be put away in order to pay for the future benefit. Employees pay 27%. They don't pay anything towards the unfunded liabilities. So that $3.5 billion of unfunded liabilities is something that taxpayers have to deal with. In the private sector, those of you who are and will be in the private sector mostly, you'll be paying roughly half of the cost of your retirement benefit. So Social Security, employer pays half, you pay half. If you have a 401k or something like that, there's usually a match. You put money in, employer puts money in. So that's about 50%. So in order to deal with the fact that our costs are out of control and we're having to cut services, our current employees who want to maintain that very good level of benefit are going to have to pay more. So we're saying in a year, in 2013, they'll have to pay another 4% of their paycheck. And that will go up by 4% for 4 years. So it's a 16% possible maximum increase in what they're already paying. And that's on top of the fact they're already paying about 11 to 18% of their pay for retirement costs. So they're paying, but it's nowhere near the full cost. So we're increasing the amount the current employees pay. Now, obviously that's going to be difficult for some people, if not everybody. So we're also creating an option for our employees, call it the opt-in plan or voluntary employment plan. that would allow somebody to say, I don't want to pay as much, I don't need as generous a benefit, I will dial it back a little bit to still a very good benefit.